why the introverted feeling types have such a hard time with not being seen, with not being understood. And maybe you are feeling sometimes like you're invisible, like you're a ghost, and you really, really crave someone to really see and understand what you mean, what's deep inside of you. So this experience is not just common for introverted feeling types like INFJ and INFPs, but generally to many highly sensitive people. And I want to start by saying it was part of my experience as well. And the story that comes to my mind is really connected to something that struck me so strong when I saw a book by Tove Jansson, and it was about Moomins. I don't know if you know Moomins, but I adore Moomins. And when I lived in London, in one of the charity shops, I saw a book titled The Invisible Child from the Moomin series. And obviously I bought this book, and the book was really talking about my experience and experience of so many introverted feeling people. It's a story about this girl that went invisible because she was being downgraded so much. She was not being noticed. She was being diminished by her family members so much, to the point that she ceased to show. There was only her dress and her nice red bow on an invisible head, moving with that person that was invisible. And it was really heartbreaking to read that, because it really resonated with my experience. Now, if you feel that way sometimes, like an invisible child whose experience of life, whose radiance was shunned so much that it ceased to exist at times, or maybe you feel like you're collapsing, fear not. It's not something that you should suffer for the rest of your life. First, I want to answer the question why it happens, because that was the original theme of this episode. And later I will tell you some of the ways how I've dealt with this and how I guide my clients and my students to deal with this sense of not being seen, not being valid, not existing even. So one of the whys is something that I kind of implied from this book. So first of all, we see ourselves as other people see us, right? So if you had that experience, and it's highly likely that you did, that when you were a child, your ideas, your perceptions, your joys, your excitements were kind of downgraded and squished and ignored. They maybe have been shamed. Maybe you were criticized for your talents and your passions, everything that was you. So your feelings, your passions, your ideas, your sensitivity, your perceptions. So all these things were invalidated. And in many of my episodes, in many of my videos, I talk about how we internalize these things. So whatever we were taught that people reacted to us, this is how we start reacting to ourselves as well, and the feelings grow stronger. So when we feel these people all around us now in adult life not seeing us, it reminds us of these deep, deep, deep wounds that were, a part of our experience in childhood. Another reason why it's so hard to bear that experience of not being seen comes down to the fact that it's so easy for you to see everyone, right? we've developed so much attunement in the response to those early wounds, so that we pick up the slightest detail from the environment. We pick up the slightest change in mood or emotion of the other person. We see something that is unsaid, that maybe they're just showing this mask and this facade, but they're not really showing the depth of them. But we can see that, because what we can see is not just the physical person, what most people see, the persona, the role that they're acting out, but we can also see their spirit. We can see if they're really sad, or we can see that maybe they actually are these joyous and beautiful and creative people deep inside. And we see all of that. And somewhat along the lines of projecting what I just mentioned, we can't understand why is it so hard for others to see us the same way, because it's so effortless for us. It may be so easy for you to go into a room of strangers, people that you don't really know, and pick up these harmonies of what they're projecting outside, what they're showing or trying really hard to show to you, and what they really are. You can really quickly maybe spot there is some fakeness. But maybe you're not really judging this, but you can see the tenderness of that person, or something beautiful in them. And you crave to be seen in the same way, or validated in the same way. You do automatically to even strangers, right? And that's why you can be attractive to so many people, and sometimes people that, you know, you don't want to be attracted to, but you are being attractive because some people really crave that. Being seen is, after all, something that reminds us of this childhood state when there is this unconditional love and unconditional presence to pain, to misery, to dreams, and all that stuff. Now, following on that, you know, we make these things that people don't see us, when they don't validate us, when they don't understand us, we make it mean something about us. So INF people, they are creating a lot of meanings in their minds. They have very overactive imagination mind. They overthink a lot, as we all know. And we create a lot of meanings, right? So maybe it's your experience that you add certain meanings where they don't exist. And you add meanings that are painful, that make this situation mean about you, that you should be ashamed of yourself. That if they don't see you, then you are in fact invisible. That if they don't validate you, then you have no value. If they don't see you worthy or something like that, then you are unworthy. So what happens in this situation is kind of attribution of meaning that you are making, that INF people are making in these situations. They really internalize. Like in childhood, they internalize what other people do, what other people say, what other people think to be about them. And this is not just common for INF people, it's common for virtually all people who haven't claimed that sovereignty that doesn't allow any people or their perceptions, their voices, their thoughts to make it mean anything about a person that attributes, you know, these kind of feelings to the situation. Okay, so let's keep going. And this is the deepest thing that I want to touch on, and kind of it builds on the examples that I just gave you, because the main reason why it's so hard for INF people and highly sensitive people to, you know, have a hard time with not being seen, not being understood, is because they don't see or understand themselves fully. They don't validate themselves fully. Now, I talked extensively in a few of my videos about self-validation and how to validate yourself. So really, I would suggest that you go deeper into those after watching or listening this episode. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into why this is the reason why you feel so misunderstood and why you feel so not seen by others. And this comes down to that energetic imprint that develops in us that makes our boundaries really leaky, that make our attention to be really tuned in everything and anything that's on the outside, the entire environment, every detail of the environment, but not so well tuned in yourself. So INFP people, many highly sensitive people as well, have this trait to be scanning the environment all the time, to not cause disappointment, to make everyone comfortable, do all kinds of things to create harmony in the environment. But what that obsession, that vigilance about external environment does, it makes INFP people really neglect themselves, and the attention is kind of seeping from inward to outward. Of course, you have very rich inner world, and I'm sure you can lose yourself for hours thinking about various things, but that doesn't really mean you're validating and seeing yourself. Actually, there is quite a lot of resistance that comes from that that pattern, that habit of people not seeing and validating us. Like I said before, we internalize what other people did to us, and we do it to ourselves with the double strength, with the triple and quadruple strength. And this is to protect ourselves. We gave unconsciously, this is just a developmental thing, we give parents and adults in our early life power and authority to tell us what is true, to guide us. And unfortunately, some parents don't really guide us to what is really our truth. In various situations, highly sensitive people's early experiences are traumatic. They are ridden with betrayals, with traumas, with neglect, with abuse, abandonment, and all kinds of things that don't really display a whole lot of about truth or a whole lot of about ourselves. And these experiences actually misguide our idea about ourselves. And until we can really see and validate ourselves, for as long it will be really hard to be misunderstood by others. Because when you've grown that self-validation and that centered state that tells you what is right or what is wrong in your life, that reliance on your judgment, that energetic sovereignty that I always talk about, that comes from that centered energy that is collected within you, that is not dispersed everywhere and anywhere outside of you. It has to be collected deep inside of you, and more specifically in your core, in your belly. It really needs to be anchored. And this allows a person to say, well, this person doesn't see me, but I know I'm valuable. These people don't understand the hell what I'm talking about. They have no idea what I'm talking about. They have no idea about my sense of humor, but I don't care. because I know it was funny. I know it was just funny, and I can giggle to myself. And this is what I often do. Sometimes I make a joke with people that don't get me, because I still do that sometimes, because I don't hang out with just INF people. Now and again, I hang out with diverse people, and I enjoy it because I don't have to go deep with everyone. But I still would make a joke, my kind of joke, and everyone looks at me like I'm crazy, and I would still laugh out loud because I am having fun, you know. And this is one of these kind of experiences that happen when you've collected that energy deep inside of you, that you're centered in your knowing that what you know is right, that your value is here, is not dependent on people seeing it or acknowledging or understanding it or, you know, validating it. It's inherent. So no one can tell you otherwise. But these realizations only come from embodied sense of that knowing. And like I say, that's why it's so important to work on mind-body connection, so that these experiences are not just in your mind, that you tell yourself a nice quote that you read somewhere to validate yourself, but it has to be a felt sense. Otherwise, you will still feel like you are ashamed of yourself. Like these people's words, thoughts, reactions actually mean something about you, and you will still feel like that invisible child from the story of Tove Jansson that I was telling you before. Unfortunately, we cannot do anything to make people understand us, to make people see us, to make people validate us. And I would actually stop trying. I would actually stop explaining. I would actually stop wasting your energy to have someone really see your worth, to persuade them and to make them see exactly what you meant by this joke or by this idea or by whatever you're trying to explain so badly. But I would just release that into where it belongs, into them. They can do whatever they want, and it is your responsibility to make yourself seen. And you can only make yourself seen by seeing yourself. So what does it take to feel seen, to feel that interconnectedness of all the, you know, molecules of you, so that you feel full of yourself, that you don't feel like you're transculent, like, you know, everything goes in and out from you, like you have no boundaries. Yes, I said, you know, mind-body connection and awareness is super important, but what you can do on your own is, first of all, you can definitely witness your pain. You can even witness that pain of not being seen. You can stay with that feeling and be with whatever comes up without rushing it, without saying that it's unimportant, without saying you should feel somewhat different, without, you know, telling you that you should stay positive or something like that. Or on the other side, without distracting yourself from it by, you know, listening to all kinds of self-help videos like this one, or, I don't know, reading some self-help books that are great to remind us, but sometimes serve as a distraction. And I really want to say that for all those seekers amongst you, all those self-help junkies and all that, it is sometimes a distraction to go into these rabbit holes of courses and all these things that can be helpful, but nothing can replace that felt experience that you can build by witnessing yourself. And this would be the main thing that I want to focus on as the kind of solution that you can do on your own, step by step, by sitting with your feelings, by not fixating about how you should be or feel, or maybe how unworthy you are, over time, you will start noticing a slight difference that comes from giving yourself that energy, not letting the energy leak out of you to all these people that you're giving power to, but collect it and draw it and use it as a kind of spotlight on you. And projection is something you can read about as well. I often talk about how this mechanism that we project on others is really all about us, because when we hurt by someone not giving something to us, like seeing us or understanding, it's often also something that underpins our experience of us not seeing ourselves. Now, having said all that, I want to emphasize that it's not just that you have high demands of being seen. It's normal to have that need, especially when you know how you are seeing others. So really let yourself be compassionate towards yourself. And I want to let you know also that it may be a lifelong journey to heal these wounds, because it's not as easy as you're just doing some exercise or something like that and that sense will be gone. It might crop up in various situations, even after you heal it. In some situations, all of a sudden one day it may pop up again. So have patience with yourself. But even the act of you healing and trying to heal this wound, trying to deal with that unbearable sense of not being seen, it's an act of seeing yourself. It's an act of giving yourself that spotlight, witnessing your emotions, your needs, all that stuff that you were not given as a child, right? So this is one of the things I wanted to throw in. And another thing is just really try and share yourself, expressing yourself, because people might be used to around you and you might be used to disappearing, because so long you were kind of invisible to these people, and you might have started to not want to express yourself, not want to share what you're all about, because you feel like, oh, it's not worth it anymore. No one will get me anyway, so I can just stop trying. But I want you to really not stop trying. Actually show more of this part of your individuality that people don't know, whether they're going to agree with it or not. And actually the ones that they won't agree, the more courageous things that you might share, try to inject them here and there, so that you are drawing that definition of you, so that people can actually see something. Because when you have that tendency of witnessing everyone, you actually make yourself that transculent self. You become adaptive, flexible, and kind of adjusting yourself with everything and everyone. But when you create some sort of definition through sharing, I like these kind of songs, which you might not agree with, because maybe there are cheesy songs, maybe there are some cheesy bands from whatever 90s, like some of the ones I like, or maybe some of your opinions or something along these lines that kind of define you. These words actually are not by coincidence speaking about the definition, about boundary of you, because they actually express some level of individuality that many INFJs, highly sensitive people, were not able to develop. They were taught to disappear. They were taught to vanish. as in the process of development, and people not really be able to be there for these kind of lovely, gentle people. Now, as you kind of draw this definition by sharing your individuality, by sharing your emotions, by sharing your interests, your passions, your needs, your demands even, because that also draws the definition that puts the spotlight on you. This way also you kind of give people a chance of seeing you, whether they agree with you or not, but they see something, right? So it's kind of something I wanted to add in practical terms, what we might be doing unconsciously, as in actions between us and people, because it's also important thing that we get so used to being a certain way that we forget and maybe not appreciate or not know that there could be another way to be, where we express ourselves more outwardly, not just in writing or drawing or something like that, but actually with people, not just as witnesses, not just as counselors, not just as psychologists and, you know, the support group of everyone else, but you as yourself. And just going back to the story of the invisible child, how the invisible child in that story was brought back to visibility was through Moomin's family seeing that child, asking it questions, playing with her, and regardless that she was invisible, they were engaging with her. They were loving her, they were giving her attention, they were talking to her, like I said, and doing all kinds of things as if she was there. So I hope this is kind of an idea that I can leave you with for what you can do for yourself, like this lovely quirky family did for that invisible child. You can do for yourself, because, well, we're not all that lucky to have Moomin's family to take care of us, and we can really do a lot for ourselves. Now, if you want some more solutions, I really encourage that you sign up to my newsletter. I often talk about these kind of things in my newsletter, and I share all kinds of solutions there and offers that help go deeper and really start resolving these felt experiences that haunt us for years and decades of our life. Now, I hope that was useful. Do let me know, what is your experience with feeling invisible, or maybe feeling like you're not seen in your life? And I would be really curious to hear about this. So take care, thank you for listening, and see you later.